Welcome to Farmhouse Lilies, where today we are making quite a few things in the kitchen. The first thing that we are making is a nut-free basil pesto. And I don't have any fresh pesto right now because it's not spring yet and my basil plants have just barely sprouted in their seed starting trays. But I was getting antsy and I really wanted some basil pesto, so I decided to make a nut-free basil pesto, and it is delicious. So I got these basil plants from the grocery store and picked them in their proper places. I pruned them in the joints where there are new leaves coming so that they can grow new stems in bush out. As you can see here, I'm kind of like pruning, harvesting from them. And and these plants are now in my little greenhouse that I have in the garage for my seedlings, and they're doing pretty good. But I'm really excited for them to grow their leaves again because I am ready to make this again. This basil pesto is absolutely delicious. It is better than our favorite pesto blend that we get from a store, and I just prefer it so much more. The freshness of the basil and the freshness of the freshly grated Parmesan, and just even the high quality olive oil really makes a big difference, and the brightness in this pesto is just unbelievable. So we are making this basil pesto here with basil leaves, Parmesan, olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice to cut the fat in the basil pesto, and I end up not really liking the texture, the chunky texture that the food processor gave me for the pesto, so I do end up putting it into the blender and blending it really smooth, and that just made a whole bunch of difference, and that was absolutely delicious and smooth and creamy and really bright but rich and delicious. So I highly recommend making this nut-free basil pesto. I will link the blog post down in the description below. And I do end up making a creamy basil pesto pasta with freshly made pasta in that clip. There is what that is, and it is delicious. But now we are working on some cherry scones, and these scones are made from cherries that we picked at a friend's house this last summer and pitted and cleaned and froze, and we have 4 giant gallon-sized bags of cherries in my freezer that I need to use. So I'm almost through one of those giant bags, if that tells you how much cherries we have. And I've made this and other baking recipes with cherries multiple times, and so we just have so many cherries that I need to work through. But this scone with the frozen cherries is absolutely delicious, and once again, this recipe is on the blog, so I highly recommend going to the blog and checking out this recipe. I do make this in the food processor rather than cutting everything by hand. It's just easier, and I enjoy the process a lot more when I don't have to get so messy and have to worry about cutting the butter into the flour and all that. So it does come together a little bit different and crumbly, is what it looks like. It doesn't come together like a pie dough in the food processor. What it does is it comes together, or is it separated as crumbles, and then you pour it out onto the counter and you push everything together, and it comes together as a nice scone really well. And here I'm mixing in the cherries on the counter as well, just because I decided to be a little extra messy that day. But I later show that I am cutting the dough and stacking it on each other, and cutting it and stacking it and pushing it down. And what this does is it creates layers, flaky layers. So the scone dough did come out with some flaky layers in them as well. So here we are patting together the scone dough, and I'm going to cut them and layer them and create those nice lovely layers that we have in the scones. I do brush these scones with heavy whipping cream. You can brush them with heavy whipping cream, you can brush them with milk, you can brush them with eggs. If you brush them with eggs, they're going to brown a little bit more, like a nice golden brown a little bit more, rather than a pale color without any goldenness, really. And that's totally fine. These scones are really forgiving and really easy to make. They're great for beginners. The dough can be a little bit weird to work with because it is such a wet dough, and it kind of crumbles a little bit and you kind of think you're doing things wrong, but it's fine. It's very forgiving. Just push it back together and then shape your dough and cut your scones out and put it on your sheet pan. The thing is with these scones is that they do spread a little bit, so you have to put them like 2 to 3 inches apart to make sure that they don't bake into each other. But other than that, they come together really, really nicely, and they are just such a nice dough. So here we are picking up the scones and putting them onto the baking sheet, and they just cook up really well and really nicely. And they're so delicious. I highly recommend making scones, particularly this scone recipe, because it's mine and it's delicious and it's cherries and it's wonderful, but scones in themselves are just such a nice, wonderful treat, and I don't think that I make them enough at home, honestly. They are such just a delicacy, honestly, is kind of how I think about them right now. But here we are putting them in the oven, and they're going to bake for 18 to 20-ish minutes, and they're just really fast. So I wanted to show myself cleaning up a little bit and just kind of doing some homemakey stuff today because, well, I felt like it, but also because spring is right around the corner, and we really need to be preparing our homes for the change of the season, especially after this long winter and the rest that winter brings. You know, it's nice to pick things back up and to increase the pace and to get the house clean again and start your seeds and kind of do all of the fun homemakey stuff again, because things are going to get really busy. So here I am making brown sugar, and I end up adding a lot more molasses than this because it just never got as dark as I wanted it to until I kept adding more and more and more and more. But this Ancresham is awesome. It does everything that I need it to and more, and it's just a workhorse, and I've never had a problem with it. So I highly suggest getting one of these if you happen to have this in your eyesights for all your baking needs, because it really is an amazing machine. So yeah, we're just gonna put the brown sugar back into the half-gallon mason jar right there, and that's it. Thank you guys for watching the video today. Leave a comment and let me know what you want to see next. Bye.